All right, good morning, geometry kids. How are you guys, or afternoon or evening, whenever you're watching this? So this is the first video, and my stylus pen did not come in, so I'm writing with my finger, so hopefully you can follow along. I hope all is well. I hope you guys are finding plenty of stuff to do. Happy early Easter. You have Thursday and Friday off, so that's nice. All right, so today we are going to do section 9.4 on McGraw-Hill. So if you want to also go and watch the McGraw-Hill notes or look through the slides, you can do that. All right, so we'll start. A 45, 45, 90 triangle. So there's actually two different ways to find the sides of a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So we are going to do one way today, same way you already know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and then the other way tomorrow. I'm sorry, on Tuesday. All right, so now don't make fun of my drawing. It's going to be the same as it is at the high school. Oops, I first got to get the pen out. All right, so here is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the best I can draw with my finger. There's the right angle, don't laugh. All right, so just like always, if it's a right triangle, we've got two legs and a hypotenuse. In a 45, 45, 90 triangle, if this is a 45, then this is a 45, and then that one's the 90. So as you can see, because these two angles are the same, I gotta point them with my pointer, you can't see my finger. There it is. Because this angle and this angle are the same, those are angles. Because those angles are the same, then that makes both of the legs the same. So if this is x, this is also x, okay? So in order to find the hypotenuse, we would just use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if this is the hypotenuse, we would simply just do x squared plus x squared is equal to h squared. And you would just use the same formula that we did before. Okay? So if you wanted to solve that out, you could do 2x squared is equal to h squared. So you could say that the hypotenuse is equal to the square root of 2x squared. Okay? So if you want to memorize that formula, you could, or you could just use x squared plus x squared equals h squared. So I'm going to use this with the 45, 45, 90 triangles. If you wanted to, you could also simplify this further. The square root of x squared is x, is the square root of 2 times x. But we will talk about that later on Tuesday, how to use the shortcuts. And for right now, we're going to go to a couple of examples. So this is example 1 in your McGraw-Hill notes. So if you want to go through the McGraw-Hill notes, you can. And if you don't want to, that's fine too, because this is them, example 1. All right. Okay, so we have a 4 here. Oops, you can't see my finger pointing at it. This is a 45-degree angle. So if this is a 45-degree angle, this is a 45-degree angle. Here's your 90-degree angle. So these two sides are the same. So if this is 4, then this other side is also 4. So that is 4. So then we can just say that 4 squared plus 4 squared is equal to x squared. And we can solve that quite easily. So it's going to be 16 plus 16 is equal to x squared. So 32 is equal to x squared. And on today's Alex assignment, we are simply going to use your calculator and round it to the nearest tenth. On Tuesday, we're going to talk about simplest radical form, but we don't need to do that today. So it's going to be the square root of 32, which is going to be, I'm just doing my calculator, round to the nearest tenth is 5.7. So x is approximately 5.7. Okay, and that is rounded to the nearest tenth. And your entire Alex assignment today is rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, moving on to the next problem. Okay, for the next problem, if you notice, this is the same and that is the same. And if you have two sides, you already know how to figure out the third side anyway. If it's a right triangle, you just do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, so we're going to do 5 root 2 squared plus 5 root 2 squared is equal to x squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 5 times 5 is 25. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. You can do that in your calculator. Or 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. plus 5 times 5 is 25. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2. So that is equal to the square root of 4, which equals 2. So that is the square root of 2 squared. If you're wondering how I got that. Times 2 equals x squared. So then we're going to get x squared is equal to 50 plus 50. So 100 is equal to x squared. So that one's very easy. The square root of 100 is 10. And that is your answer. And I'll show you a different way to do all these 45, 45, 90s on Tuesday. All right, the next one, another 45, 45, 90. So again, if this is 45, that's 45. If that is x, this is also x. So we simply put an x there, and we're going to go x squared plus x squared is equal to 18. Supposed to be an 18, sorry. So 1x squared plus 2x squared is 2x squared is equal to 18. So then x squared is equal to 9. So x is equal to 3. All right, and with this recording, that is one thing. If you can't follow it, you can always pause it. And you can always ask me questions live. Okay, so these triangles, the 30, 60, 90. This one is much tougher because you don't have two sides that are the same. So in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, there's a relationship you need to know from now until any math class you're going to take. So that relationship is a 1, square root of 3, and 2. We're going to use it on every single 30, 60, 90 problem we do. So you need to make sure you know that ratio. You need to memorize it. It is super, super important. It is a right triangle, so it does need to follow a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which it does. 1 squared plus, 1 squared. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Plus the square root of 3 squared is equal to 4, is equal to 2 squared. Sorry. I'm new at this, and I need my stylus, which is coming tomorrow. So 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. So it does follow a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, so I need that room, so I'm going to erase that. We don't need that. Okay. All right, so it does follow that cardinal rule for triangles that you guys learned a couple years ago. We need to follow. Okay, so how does that work? In this triangle, here is a triangle. All right, now the smaller angle is going to be the 30. The other one's going to be the 60. Here's the 90. So this one is going to be 30 because that's smaller. This one is going to be 60 because that's the bigger angle. So as we learned from the past, the smaller angle is the smaller side is across from the smaller angle. So this one right here is a 30-degree angle. That's a 30-degree angle. The one across from it is the smaller side, and 1 is smaller than the square root of 3. So that means that 1 is going to go here. That will always be 1, or a multiple of 1. All right. So then we have 6. So there is 60 degrees. So across from that is the square root of 3. That will always be the ratio for that side. 1 will always be the ratio for that side. That's a better way to put it. This is 90 degrees. That's the biggest angle. So crossing the biggest angle is the biggest number, which is 2. All right. So on your assignment, you're going to be given a triangle with only one side. So let's say that we have this triangle here, and that's our 90, and we have our 30, and we have our 60. So if you were only given one side, per se, you were given that this right here is, I'll just make something up, is, I don't know, we'll just say that this is 5. All right. So if you know that that length is 5, let's call this A, 5 is B, and this is C. All right. So what I do is I set this up as a 30, 60, 90. So I'm going to go 30, 60, 90. We're going to do this for every single 30, 60, 90 problem. Underneath the 30, what side goes with the 30? The 1 correlates with the 30. It always will. The 60 is always underneath that as the square root of 3. And crossing the 90 is always the 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up a proportion with our new triangle. All right, in our new triangle over here, what is across from the 30? Across from the 30 is a 5. So underneath the 1 is going to go underneath the 30 degrees is going to be a 5. Okay, what is across from the 60? Across from the 60 is A, so we're going to put an A there. And then across from the 90 is C, so we're going to put a C there. So now how do we find A, B, and C? We simply group two of these ratios together, like these two, and then we cross multiply to find what A is. So I'm going to cross multiply, so I'm going to say that the 5 times the square root of 3 is equal to 1A, so that makes it easy. A is equal to 5 times the square root of 3. Again, sorry about my writing. Now, to find the other side, to find C, I'm going to group these two together. So I'm going to cross multiply. Some of you can just see 1 times 2 is 2, so 5 times 2 would be 10, or you can write out your proportion. So 1/5 equals 2 divided by C. Cross multiply, C is equal to 10. So we set this up for every single 30, 60, 90. So let's look at the next example in the book and your notes if you want to go online to them. So the first one, of course, is a little bit turned. So this is example 4, so it's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to draw my triangle. I don't even need to draw my triangle. I'm just going to use my proportion. So I have a 30, 60, 90. And what are the 3 numbers you have to remember for your next test? 1, square root of 3, and 2. So those are the 3 numbers you need to have. So underneath the 30, you put a 1. Underneath the 60, you put a square root of 3. Underneath the 90, you put a 2. And now we're going to make ratios with these. All right, so what is across from 30 degrees? Across from 30 degrees is x. Across from 60 degrees is 12. And across from 90 degrees is y. So now we are simply going to make ratios into proportions, and we're going to cross multiply. So then we're going to get x times the square root of 3 is equal to 12. So how do we find x? We divide both sides by the square root of 3. So we're going to get 12 divided by the square root of 3. And for today, we're going to round to the nearest 10th. I know your notes don't, but that's what we're going to do in Alex today. So we're going to take your calculator 12 divided by the square root. I got to find the square root button. I'm on a different calculator, sorry. The square root of 5. And that is 5.4. If you have the white calculator, you got to push the arrows above the enter button, and it'll give you from radical form to decimal form. So that is 5.4. All right, so 5.4. So again, stylus is coming tomorrow, of course. Okay, so then next we can set these two equal to each other. So we're going to get 1 over x is equal to 2 over y. That's pretty easy to cross multiply. Oops. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Because we have 2 variables. So we're going to erase that and try that over again. So for that one, and we're not going to do that either. All right. So I'm going to go back to my pen, and we're going to put these two equal to each other because the other one won't work. So we're going to get the square root of 3 over 12. That's actually a 12. I know you can't read it. Over 12. I got to hurry up. I only have a minute and a half left. Okay, here we go. Over 12 is equal to 2 over y, and then we cross multiply. So we get the square root of 3 times y is equal to 24. So y is equal to 24 divided by the square root of 3, and then put that in your calculator. All right, so I'm going to move on to the last one, and that is example 5. And here we have a tent. So they're talking about the front of this tent, and they want to know the height of the tent. So here is my height right there. So if that's your height, guess what that makes that? A right angle. Now this whole thing is 7. So if that's 7, this is 3.5. All right, if this is a triangle, and that means that this whole angle is 60 degrees, so that little angle is 30 degrees. That makes this angle here 60 degrees. So it is a 30, 60, 90. So we're going to set up 30, 60, 90. 1, root 3, and 2. So underneath there, across from the 30-degree angle is 3.5. Across from the 60-degree angle is your height. And across from your 90-degree angle is something we don't need. We don't even need that. That's your hypotenuse, that's C. So then we're going to take